Hey guys, once again your Vaping Minuteman is here, and today what we're going to do is we're going to be talking just a little bit about some advocacy. And I was given a lot of information this past week by our good friend Faircloth over there in West Virginia, and Larry Faircloth, he actually is suing the FDA. And a little bit about what we're going to talk about is what's going on during his current legislative, I'm sorry, not legislative, but his current judicial battles with the FDA. We're going to hear what's going on, how it can benefit vaping. Now, this is going to be a long video, and I will go ahead and put timestamps down the bottom. But I highly recommend that if you have not heard his actual Facebook Live stream, I highly recommend you go ahead and stick around, because I'm going to talk a lot about what he has talked about, what he's bringing up, and a lot of these are very big issues. And I apologize, I meant to get this out last night, but I was having issues with this new setup again. So I got all that fixed, and let's go ahead and hop on over and we'll get to it. Okay, guys, now that we're here, let's go ahead and I'll give you a little bit of a update as to where we are right now in the discussion. Right now, former Delegate Faircloth, who is running again this year, he's about ready to start talking about what's going on with the Faircloth Vs FDA lawsuit. So, you know what? Let's go ahead. Let's turn it on. Let's start listening to Larry.
Our lawsuit. There's a lot going on. And then all the other points that actually deal with the FDA and certain actions that are going on in departments and outside lobby groups are actually a direct impact of you guys' action. It really is. What you're seeing.
Sorry about that. And what he means, you guys' action, is actually the action of every single vapor.
You're seeing a direct kickback from the FDA. So let's start with the lawsuit. So here's what we have going on. Now, let's be real. A year and a half ago when we started it, we wasn't sure if we could make any ground or headway with it. Not gonna lie. Not at all. 1% chance. We got into it. Even a year ago, we had people sitting there, we had haters. Lots of haters. Oh, I'm nothing, why is this guy doing this? Why is he suing the FDA? He's a snake oil salesman and all that other good stuff. Well, I'm pleased to announce that after a year and a half, actually a little longer than that now, about 20 months actually, that the lawsuit has made it to a point that we've been through 9 argument phases. We've been actually able to disindain their arguments, and the arguments we posted were accepted by the courtroom. Now don't fall asleep in here, guys. See some action. I want to see some comments. I'm trying to watch what you guys are saying.
Now, mind you, this is a Facebook Live, so he's also communicating with the people that are talking in the background during chat. So you'll notice him breaking a few times during this.
We made it through all the arguments. We fought 2 dismissals brought forth by the FDA and Health and Human Services against us. They tried to dismiss our lawsuit on 2 different occasions. We were able to get siding on both those dismissals. And most recently, a few months ago, we actually were at a point where the U.S. District Court ruled in our favor on one of the rulings. So what does that mean that they didn't give us all the rulings? Now, think about this. If you win all the rulings in your favor, the other side has an immediate right to appeal, which in essence shuts your action down for a period of time. That's not good. But by splitting it, what it does is it allows us to continue to go forward, and I'll tell you what going forward means in a second. But the rulings that were not given to us were based on facial rulings and not factual rulings by the judge, meaning he made a facial ruling based on a statement, which means that they can be contested and overturned in a courtroom. So we can bring all those things back. Now, what does that mean? At this point, what it really means is that as we proceed forward and we wait for the judiciary process to wake up and get off of the golf course, we will be scheduled a court date, which we expect, I'm giving time frames here, May, June. And what this court date is it's not a hearing. It is not a continuation. It is a court date to hear the case in its entirety and to argue the final arguments in the final courtroom and decide, do we win or lose? That's a good thing. Now, a little while back, though, we have been pushing the fact of mediation. Prior to... No.
Now, just so everybody knows, that court date that he spoke of is an important date. So we need to be watching even as close as we can as it gets closer to that court date, because then we're actually going to hear what happened as long as it's an open court session. Normally, you can get some recordings from some court cases, and if you can't get the recordings, normally you can get the transcripts. So we'll know what happened. Plus, Larry will probably keep us updated as to what's going on.
No, we're not talking about CBD. Not at all. We're not even going to touch on CBD. CBD is a whole different issue. Okay, so we had actually been pushing for mediation. It was what it does is it gives you the ability to go in a closed door and sit down. AJ? Country boy, what do you expect? So the mediation will allow us to go in and make demands. And what those demands will be, they will also be countered from the other side as well. And we pushed this and we had tossed it around and they didn't want to entertain it. Well, the FDA lawyers and the FDA came to us in two different steps. And one, they told us that they did not want to go to a court. They did not want to go to court. They did not want to go to court. They didn't have the resources to go to court.
That's the funny part. They didn't have the resources, and that's why they don't want to go to court. Now listen to what else he says about this, because it makes it even funnier that this is the actual federal government saying they don't have the resources.
They openly admitted, we don't have the resources to take you to court. So what does that mean? The resources, bottom line, says that they do not have the appropriation of funding to set in a final court setting. And if you know anything about federal law and federal courts and federal agencies, you will see that they actually have to bond before they can go to court. Well, the bond money is way too much for them to be able to do. So, don't tell me you can't afford to go to court, because we're going to push you to go to court. So we got that. But then things took an interesting turn because the Department of Justice attorneys actually approached us a few weeks back and told us they would be welcome to bring our articles of mediation to the table.
That's a big one.
That's
right
big,
there, guys.
That's real good. Mediation, you go behind the closed doors, you work it all out, you hammer it all out. So I can tell you some of the things that we are actually addressing, real simple, is we want, in mediation, we want the removal of the PMTA process completely. There's This is not a tobacco product. Therefore, it should not be susceptible to the pre-manufacturing tobacco application.
Now, what does that do for the industry? Getting rid of the PMTA, he later discusses this, but I'm not going to make you listen to it, that what that does is that gets rid of the grandfather date and makes it to where there is no process for the regulating of the actual devices. And the simple fact of the e-liquids. We get into those just a little bit here in a couple minutes. But the devices and the actual costly, and I do mean costly as in millions of dollars per device and per product, death blow to the industry. Getting rid of that PMTA is what we have needed since the beginning.
So that's one thing that we're bringing to the table. And it's one thing that we are going to hold our guns on. In a counter to what we are willing to give up, if we can go to mediation, is the registration of product, guys. Yes, very much so. Okay, so we want the PMTA removed. In exchange, we will let them have the registration and SKU process. What the registration and SKU process is basically what every vape manufacturer just had to go through. Who cares if you got to put a SKU number on your product? Who cares if you have to submit a product to the FDA? That's no big deal. A hell of a lot better than a PMTA process.
Amen.
So the next thing that we are looking at is we can agree with them on the 18 plus rule. I think we all can. We don't want kids. We don't want to sell to kids. However, we're throwing out.
Now this is going to be the kicker. I love that they're throwing this in. I don't know as much if they're going to get this, but it brings up a good idea for us to think about.
Out there, the fact that many laws across the country have what they call, and it applies to a couple different things, and we had to dig deep through this one. It applies to tattoo, body piercings, and tanning beds. Mm-hmm. And what it basically says is, you know, let's kind of step off the track here, but like in a lot of states, when it regards body piercings, tattoos, and tanning beds, in a lot of states they don't allow minors to get these things under the age of 18 unless the parent is present and gives written consent and signs off. Okay?
That's the key, because in all honesty, where are minors getting tobacco products right now? Because it's for sale only to 18 and over. In most states, and in others it's 21 and over. But where are those minors getting a hold of everything? They're getting it because of their parents. Their parents are agreeing for them to use it. So that right there is an amazing thought.
Now, what our argument is what do we do about the 16-year-olds that smoke? Let's be real. It is actually a problem. We have 16-year-olds. I mean, I'm sure there's 12 and 13-year-olds that smoke. But we really can't go way down into regs. Alicia Singleton sees it. So, but what if a parent wanted their child to quit smoking and their child was 16 or 17, not quite 18, and they were allowed to use a non-nicotine or maximum 3-nic product? Through written consent.
Now, mind you, you heard 0 or 3 nic at the maximum. And that includes nic salts, that includes everything. So that is a really good idea, and I really like that Delicate Faircloth brought this idea up.
To start and stop their child from smoking. Let's be real. It's what vaping is actually all about, is to help bring people off cigarettes. And we've seen many of us have seen the damaging effects of what smoking has done to us over the years. And I'm sorry, but I'm fortunate my children are older, but I still do have one that's under 18. And I personally, if I caught her smoking, and the law was in place that said I had the ability to sign a waiver, present myself with her, to give her a product that would be less harmful than a damn cigarette, I'm going to do it. So that's what we're kind of pushing out there. But only on those, not just any 16, not any, will they go for it? We don't know. Okay, so that's one thing. Okay? Bingo. Okay, let's move on. Got a lot to cover, guys. And I want to do it quick. I don't want to keep everybody here to where you all have to start drinking coffee to stay awake. And I'm trying to keep up with all the comments. So, advertising. You guys, we've already proved. we got that rolling. We don't even have to mediate that, They want to argue that and they want to fight us. Let's do it. But truth be told, you guys have a right. You are an industry. You are in business, and you have to be able to. We're getting to the flavor ban. Calm down. We're not there yet. You guys have to be able to promote your product. Now, one more thing we're looking at, and it'll be the final thing, and then we can get off of the mediation and lawsuit, okay? Yeah, slow down, guys. I'm getting there. I can only talk so fast. I'm going to tell you what the flavor ban's all about. Bear with me. One more thing. Okay, so last topic in FDA mediation, health claims. Right now, nobody's allowed to make health claims. We can change that wording, okay?
This is the fun part. I love this part.
That can actually be changed. So if you walk in a shop, somebody's not allowed to tell you, hey, what they don't want, and what we've gathered in conversation with them, is they don't want somebody who's walking in with a pack of cigarettes to quit smoking, start vaping, and shop owners telling them, oh yeah, now if you do this, you'll never get cancer. That's what they're trying to avoid, okay? But what you can do, and what we're going to fight to do, is you can tell them your story. And also, you can collect testimonies from your customers and let people read them. So we're going to fight the ability for you guys to actually not necessarily be able to make health claims, but be able to tell representative stories that are actual facts. So it is guys, and technically at this point we were told you can. So it's already a little bit of a win. They have no problem with it, and you can't be vised for it. So if somebody were to walk in, even if they were an FDA inspector, and they were like, is this safer than smoking? Will I get cancer? And play the dumb card. Yeah. You can actually tell them, this is what I did. This is what I feel. And this is what the effects have been for me. And this is so-and-so. And hey, here is some testimonies. And guess what? We actually have a website where those testimonies are already at, so you can share them with your customers in your shops. You can even submit your own if you want. Advocateforvaping.com. Now, so let's...
Now, I will include that link down in the bottom, and myself, I am going to submit mine. So I highly recommend that if you're watching this and you've been off cigarettes, which I'm sure you have, or even you're right now dual using, and vaping has benefited you, I highly recommend you go ahead and go over there to Advocate for Vaping and go ahead and submit your story. Because these stories are some of the most important things. These stories could switch somebody over from conventional tobacco over to vaping.
Move on.
You know what, guys? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move and split this up into multiple videos. It's not worth coming in and actually doing one huge video and then you guys being bored throughout the video. So, this way you can watch what you want to watch and you don't have to watch everything if you don't want to. But this was just about the mediation side, and it's honestly one of the biggest things right now when it comes to this whole law. Because with this court case, it could totally change where we are in the vape industry right now. So, let's keep an eye on this. And I know a lot of people were watching Nicopure. Well, we're not hearing stuff about mediation with Nicopure. So we're hearing about this through the Faircloth case. My biggest thought is that maybe because of how many cases are currently in front of the FDA, they don't want to take these to court. And that's the reason they're looking at mediation, because they've had to already take out so many bonds for all the legal fees that they have already incurred, that this is why they're looking at doing this. This could be great, it could be small for the industry, but you know what? It's going to be something. So, we're going to go ahead and head out of here. And don't forget, go over there, sign up for CASA. Come over and join Faircloth Vs the FDA on Facebook. We're always, he's always getting on there and talking about what's going on. I'm always listening, and I always say, hey, is this on the record or off the record? That way I can actually share what's going on. Now, mind you, some of what he says is off the record, and you can't share it outside the group. But this was something that was on the record, and I could share it. So, once again, guys, as always, you gotta fight for your right. Oh, by the way, just so you know, we do have another channel that I am working on currently. If you're a gamer and, you just want to hang out while I'm sitting downstairs playing games, I'm not the greatest at a lot of them, but you know what? I love doing it. So, I was going to put them on this channel just to have extra content, but I thought, you know what? No, we're going to go ahead and do a completely new one. I'm actually going to include the link. It's actually in my featured channels now on my front page. So if you go over and look at my featured channels, you'll see Vaping Minuteman Gaming. That is now going to be my gaming channel. I did a trial run today, and it's looking like it's going to be really good. So we're going to go ahead and head out of here, guys. And I'm going to say it again because I stopped in the middle. You got to fight for your right to vape. Yeah.